Hey everyone. If you haven't seen part one of this piece, I really recommend that you look at it or you'll get a very incomplete picture here. Let's continue on. Critics say, I forgot to mention this in part one, critics say that the money for this project would come from working people, and that's not fair. Well, first of all, that's not necessarily true. But let's say that some of it would come from working people, via taxes. Well, look, the overwhelming majority of the people that would get a basic guaranteed income, since it would apply to every person, would be working. So, it's coming out of their pockets too. It's the overwhelming majority of people. But it may not necessarily come from working people, at least not very much of it. And I'll tell you why. After Congress voted down TARP, the Troubled Assets Relief Program that the bankers wanted, and Paulson wanted, and Bernanke wanted. Initially, they voted it down because 80% of the public was against it. It was only later they passed it. But anyway, in the interim, in between voting it down and passing it, the Fed felt that they had to do something. So they made trillions of dollars available to the mega banks as loans at 0.25% interest. Now, where did they get these trillions and trillions of dollars? One source said $13.1 trillion. It didn't come from tax money. The Fed government doesn't have trillions of dollars laying around. So where did it come from? Well, it came from the Fed. The Fed bought treasury bonds. Now, that's government speak for the Fed loaned the government the money. They basically just typed it up on the computer. And they get interest, of course, on that money. So the same thing could be done here in this proposed situation. It doesn't have to come from taxes. The Fed gets money anytime it wants money. It doesn't have to wait until April 15th or a few days later. No, it conjures it up. Now, it's a complicated process. It isn't as simple as, they just tell the Treasury to print some money. And usually no money is printed anyway. Only 3% of our money is actual paper or coined currency. The other 97% consists of digits on a computer. So I don't think that's a good objection to a basic guaranteed income. The money may come in part from working people, but then most everybody works anyway, or it may come from the Fed just conjuring up the money and, kicking the can down the road. Now, I made a general statement last time that people do want to work, and I firmly believe that. Now, it was a generalization. There are always exceptions to a general rule. So let's consider the exceptions to that. The few who don't want to work, very few in my opinion, they'll be that way regardless of whether they get this basic guaranteed income or don't get this basic guaranteed income. There's nothing much you can do about that. You're not encouraging them to be non-workers. They're already non-workers, and they like being non-workers. But there are very, very few of those people, I think. Now, another reason to consider this proposal, which I pointed out in part one, is certainly not original with me. It's been around a long, long time. Is that it would eventually bring about the phasing out of welfare. And, a critic could say, well, this is welfare too. Well, if you want to consider it that way, go ahead. But look at it this way. It would drastically cut the administrative costs of welfare. Drastically. I think Democrats who may object to this should consider it stimulus money, if nothing else, because, as I said in part one, I'm convinced this would encourage entrepreneurship at the very, very small business level. There are all kinds of businesses that single individuals can start if they just had a few bucks to do it. So consider it stimulus money, you Democrats. Now, you Republicans, you should also consider it as promoting entrepreneurship. And furthermore, you should consider it as crime prevention. Because there are millions of people in this country, never mind the 3 million who are homeless, which is an obscenity in the richest nation on earth. Never mind them. I mean, I'm counting them, but forget them for the moment. There are people who are not homeless, who are desperate. They've been looking for work. You know, the 2008 crisis itself evaporated 8 million jobs. Free trade agreements evaporate jobs. NAFTA all by itself evaporated 1 million jobs in this country. So there are lots of people looking for work. They're desperately looking for work. And their unemployment insurance has run out. They're barely scraping by. When people get desperate, especially homeless people, a normally law-abiding citizen will turn to crime. They won't want to. They'll feel guilty about it. They'll regret it. But, instinct takes over. That's one of our greatest instincts, to survive. And the first thing you have to do, besides breathe air and drink water, is eat. So I'm just not impressed at all with the objections to this guaranteed income proposal. Okay, that's it. Thanks for dropping in, and hope to see you next time. Everybody